What is going on? Section 128 LAFC. This is Los Angeles. We are live. Erik, can you believe it? Episode 5. We've been doing this for 5 weeks now. A tiny little milestone. And here we are once again to talk LAFC for the next hour. A packed agenda. As you saw, no highlights to show. There was a couple of good things that happened to us this week, but for the most part, it was a week to forget, or at least a week to discuss, right, Erik? There's a ton to talk about. We're gonna go right away, but first, how you doing, my man? Good to talk to you once again. Talk to us a little bit about how you're feeling about this week. A lot of ups and downs. We're gonna go into it, but how you feeling overall? What's your mood right now about LAFC? I know a lot of people are not happy with this team, buddy.
On just the pure viewing level, this was one of the harder weeks to watch our team play. The Columbus going into that with a three goal lead, and that was probably one of the most stressed out I've ever been watching a game. I mean, I pretty much was pacing the floor in my living room in front of my TV for a good 60 minutes or so, just losing it. All we said last week was, we just don't want to give up an early goal. And then what happens at the 10th minute? We give up a goal, and at this point, it just becomes a stress fest. And that was that, man. I mean, luckily we pulled through the game at the end of this with this week, and that's not even getting into the debacle we saw with Austin coming into our house and our team just, whatever. The bright
making
side,
it a tough one to watch, basically, right?
Oh yeah. That was probably one of the most boring LAFC games I've seen in years. I mean, you could have taken a nap at that game and not really missed much. But at the end of the day, for this season, you have to choose your battles. 3 points, at home in league play during all these competitions. It's not the worst thing to happen to drop it. And we did survive against Columbus and move on to the next round of CCC. And if you go into this week saying, hey, we can get thrashed at home by Austin, what's up, Verde Nation? See you in the chat. And we can get through on Columbus. Would you take it? I would take it 100% going into this week, the results, if that's how it had to be. Obviously, you want to win every game you can, but this is unrealistic. So that's it. At the end of it, we go through, and the team should have some time to get back to the training ground, which we know they haven't had for a month.
Yeah, nobody likes losing, and I know people are very upset about it. But at the end of the day, we're in good position, and we're in Concacaf Champions discussions. We're gonna play a massive match this upcoming April, so there's a lot to be happy and hopeful about. But some people are already very concerned with the form and with the lack of ideas that they've seen, and the influx of players that keep happening, but without results. But hey, before we go, let's just talk a little bit about what we're talking about, because there's a ton to talk about first of all, we're going to discuss Columbus. We'll start with that. What's up?
Let me stop you, Celso. Let me stop you. There is one more thing that was really nice about that game, and that was you taking both your daughters to the game and their friend, and them jumping up and dancing at 32-52. This was
they were on the big screen.
They were
on the big screen. And they were very excited about that, and I appreciate you saying that. Yes, I sometimes like to go as a fan, see the experience. You see the game from a different perspective too, and you get to contribute to the discussion in different ways. But yeah, I just want to go through the agenda real quick. We're going to start with the Columbus game because it was a long time ago, and it was probably the furthest in our minds. But we want to discuss it because it leads into discussion of Messi coming to LA, and that's really important. Then we'll talk about Austin, everything that happened there, a ton to discuss in the tactics of it, and then we'll discuss to finish the upcoming game this weekend against SKC, a game on the road, and what it means to LAFC. But yeah, Erik, let's begin with Concacaf Champions. Like you said, it was a sweaty game. We talked about it. Look, we cannot concede early. That become it's everything Columbus is probably going to want to do, and we have to have quick answers for that. And defend was the part of it. And we concede early. Columbus comes out swimming. Diego Rossi sets up Jason Russell Rowe, early header, 10th minute. Talk to me about that feeling that you had going into the 15th minute of the game as Columbus is pressing and trying to make that 2-0 on us.
Yeah, I mean, it's we went from being extremely confident about this game. I said before, if we get out with a 3-0 win in our house, I feel really good going into the next game. And that first goal just kind of gave us like a sick feeling, I think.
Yeah.
And man, it's like they said, to be a Fuchiball fan is to suffer. And man, that game made us suffer and suffer. But at the end, they came through. I think if we're going to really look at the game, a lot of the problems that we've seen with LAFC this season, particularly with the attack, really got exposed by Nancy and his tactics, and I think how teams have learned to play LAFC if they want to take a good game, number one, is we really have not much of an answer for bunker ball. And I think that could have been Columbus's mistake coming into our house is the first time is that they didn't bunker enough. They really should have kept that defensive posture and made us break them down. But, instead they basically forced us into the, whether it is Denis, they kind of forced him into the sideline, to which there was nothing for him to do. None of our midfield can make forward passes into the box. And so basically they give us the sidelines, and whether it's Bouanga, Hollingshead, Palencia, or, Martinez or anybody, they'll let our wing go all the way down basically to the corner where they know all they're going to try to do is get into a shooting position at which they have no angle. If they can dribble past two defenders, there's a third defender they're going to have to deal with before they can get their shot. And there's just not much of an answer. I mean, Bouanga is getting taken away from these games, and we don't have any alternatives to go. And so we're kind of stuck on Bouanga ball.
Yeah, look, he didn't get taken away of the Concacaf Champions game. We'll talk about this, but it's important to know also that Diego Rossi, who else has to get on the scoreboard against us, right? Penalty for Columbus at the end of the half, which is, again, if there's two things you cannot do, and in the first season that we started doing this, LAFC was doing this a lot, was concede early, right? Which is you begin like with an uphill battle to your game, and then not finish halves. And here we go. Columbus gets a break, or what did you see there? And I believe the Eddie Segura handball, and we got a penalty kick. Do you agree? First off, Diego Rossi, the law of the X, has to score against his old club, but was the defense playing well at that point? I mean, it was 1-0 on one play. What did you think of the defense in that game?
I mean, the defense did pretty well, and that's the one thing with all of our form is I've been pretty happy with the defense, especially the back line. I think our problems really are more on the offensive side than the defensive side. The midfield a little bit as well, which I think contributes to the lack of offense, but the midfield is pretty good on defense, so that's something after them. But I thought the Eddie Segura handball was a little bit ticky-tacky. I mean, it was kind of one of those where the ball just kind of rattled around. I felt like a handball could have been called on the offensive player just as easily as Segura. It seemed like it hit both of them in the arms as it went there, but Segura was the one called. So
but look,
and I will say,
tough to make a call there, right?
I thought that was a pretty hard done penalty. Luckily, we were able to keep them out of the net for the rest of the time. They really kind of stabilized it, and it was heroics from Hugo Lloris, who was. I mean, no Hugo Lloris, we are not going through on that game. So, I mean, that's really a big one to this. And, maybe we'll have time to get into it, but officiating in general this week was absolutely terrible. And there was multiple other games where, I mean, there were calls far more egregious than that Segura handball, which is arguable. I thought it was a really, really soft penalty to give, especially in a game like that. So. But it added to the drama, I guess, and we squeaked out. So
I thought so, but look, it's this stuff has just a way of I say averaging itself, because minutes later, in Hugo Lloris, which you've mentioned, has the save of his life, and some people claim that it was a goal. It was a really tough decision. I had an interesting thread that I tried to put together, which showed that it was the way it was called had to stay because it was so close, and without GoTech, which I have no idea how much it costs to implement, it would have been impossible to make a decision. So it's up to this charm of what it's been ruled on the field, and it was ruled that Lloris safe. And I almost feel like to rob that man of that save is wrong, you know what I mean? Because it was such a beautiful stop, right, to keep us in that game. You know, it would have really changed the dynamic of the game if they had gone 3-0, right? But Hugo Lloris, man, what did you see of that game? He was just possessed.
No, man. I mean, like I've been saying it all season. I'm probably going to continue to say it all season. You know, that guy should be a
good to me.
Should be an MLS goalkeeper of the year finalist if he doesn't win it this year. And it would just be disrespectful for him not to be there. He should have been there last year. The others say, you know, as far as that, with no goal line technology, which, as a side, we have the VAR. We were an early adopter of VAR. Is goal line technology more expensive than VAR? It doesn't seem to me like it should be, but I don't know the economics of that technology. But it seems to me if you have VAR, goal line technology in MLS, it's kind of confusing why we don't already have it. And so there was
a Concacaf policy, and they're not there yet. It's not a FIFA mandated rule, but it's, to your point, would have been the only way to get that call 100% right. And I stand with the referee. It stands as called, and there was no way the naked eye or even the visions of those camera angles with the VAR guys upstairs would have made any different decision that they did. So I think, like I said, a soft penalty here, a ball didn't cross the line there, and you got ourselves the correct, you know, score, which was at that point 2-0. And then, you know, let's talk about what the last play of the game was.
There was another save,
right?
I
know. There was multiple saves, but yes, go ahead.
There was that kick.
Anything you want to add on Lloris? Go ahead.
I mean that kick save that he had of a guy at point blank range. Not only that, the player was it Russell Rowe, I think. He had that ball. He had the time to take a touch before he tried to put it past Lloris, and Lloris got it with that boot. So you know, that was 2 goals that could have tied this game. And if this thing goes into overtime, I mean, it's
not good, because that stadium would have gained energy. The guys would have been tired, and it's just essentially a third game. Now you're deciding the match, right, over the 30 minutes that you have at your opponent's house with fatigue, them having momentum. I know there's not a huge crowd there, but it's, you know, and Nancy has your number. So it was like we dodged the bullet. And again, I want to talk about the last play of the game, because we saw a little bit of what Miss Ünder brings to this team, right? Mr. Ünder brings to this team when he broke through and stole that ball. So what did you see with that? He connects with Denis Bouanga, Denis lethal from that angle, gets the goal for LAFC, and we all can breathe again, right? But anything to add to Cengiz? Cengiz starting for the first time for LAFC. Yeah. Cengiz, yes. And what do you think? He brought in that last, part of the game. That was the difference for LAFC, man.
I mean, we looked so slow that game. I felt that he came in and he looked like a man among boys. Like his decision making just looked like it was a half step ahead of everybody else, and he was just decisive. And with that last interception, I mean, it looked to me, he put himself in a position like he baited that pass, and he wanted Columbus to make that, he wanted the center back to feel safe to make that pass. And he knew that he was playing one on him. And the second, he was waiting for that ball to happen. And the second it happened, he went off like a shot, and he just wanted that ball more. And to have the wherewithal at the end to pick his head up and find Denis to slot it through, man, he could have been selfish. He could have taken the shot. He probably would have had a good chance of making that shot, but he laid it off to Denis to put it in. This is a football IQ all the way at the very top, what you want to see. And he made a fool out of that defense. So
yeah, I'm very encouraged by him, and I know we're going to talk to him about the Austin game as well. But yeah,
can he play like 9? With him and That's Bouanga, what I want to know. Can he play at the 9?
Can he play at the 9? I don't know, but he probably played the false 9, the Bogusz role.
Can he play it better than the guy currently playing it? I guess.
Yeah, we could talk about that, right? Because it doesn't look like they're very
at
different
this
players.
point, this conversation's beaten pretty dead. But yeah, we can. I mean, how do we not talk about our 9 who doesn't score?
Yeah, we'll table that one. But look, let's close out Concacaf real quick. We survive a test. Just a crazy stat. Columbus had not lost just one home game in modern Concacaf history. There, and so they did not lose games right at home. So for us to go in there, we didn't get the W, but we eliminated them in their home, and I think that's just they were the champs going from Leagues Cup. And it was at the end of the day, we play 180 minutes, right? And that loss means nothing because over the series of 2 games, and you and I are Libertadores fans, we love Continental Cups. It's supposed to be spicy, right? It's not supposed to be easy, and home field advantage is massive. So I love the LAFC gave it all at home, and put 3 there because as you saw, you may need every single goal to go through, right? Like it was close. Absolutely. And I think we have to put it in perspective. I saw a lot of people upset online about after the Columbus game. So, but at the same time, you have to understand that we are playing 180-minute games in these CONCACAF games. And if you're doing your job and getting through, it doesn't matter what happens, right? We got through.
Exactly. And that, but even with dumping on Giroud, it's like if Giroud's in there, he doesn't do anything, we win the game. I don't care.
Giroud, it has pedigree, and we saw this at the last final that he played, the Leagues Cup final, which it was probably his best game with LAFC. It was the final against Columbus, and he gets a goal, and like that was probably his top moment. We really thought he was coming here to decide games for us, and the rest is history. So, here we go, full circle. He did not play on that game, right? And it turns out that now he comes up on the injury report, the weekend game as well, with a leg injury, and it's just not featured. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Did he play in CONCACAF in the midweek? He did, right? I'm sorry about that. It's been so long. It's just sometimes hard to keep it going. But he ends up not playing on the weekend with a leg injury, so it's still kind of like feeling himself out. And what we see is that when someone takes his role, the team pops up, right? And I know it's kind of like being a dead horse here, but I still don't know for a fact if it's his fault or his positioning's fault, right? Like, you don't just forget how to play overnight. And I don't believe a 9 can get washed when you look at someone like Kamara, which is over his age, over 40, and can do it at a high level.
Yeah, and I will say with these last 2 games, Ibobasi didn't really have a standout performance in either one of them, also. And especially with Austin, he struggled to get any touches on the ball. So, we can point to this as well instead of just putting it on one guy. And we've had a lot of talk, is it the system? Is it the player? And, at the end of the day,
we do a lot of that.
At the end of the day, it has to be both.
It's both for sure. They have to work together. But and right there, it just haven't happened. But look, what that means to us, right, is that we move on. Some another cool stats. I believe this is not the first time Diego Rossi has scored against LAFC, and there's some crazy stat out there that he's scored in multiple tournaments against. So again, like, continues to execute and be the leader of that club. Kudos to him. I still feel like when he plays LAFC, he has this kind of angry look and sort of heavy. Do you notice that at all, or is it just me? He just seems like he does not like the club.
Yeah, no, I think this is more beef. Here's the thing with Rossi. If you remember when he was here, do you know what his parents' occupation is?
I don't know. Welders. I have no idea.
No. His parents, both of his parents are sports psychologists, and they're also PR people that work with soccer players in Uruguay. So from a very young age, Rossi has always had sports psychology to lean into, which is why I think no matter where he goes, he carries himself as a very professional person, and he doesn't really make any of these goofy little mistakes that basically every other Uruguayan has had on our team of being complete shitheads, like with the media. So I think with Rossi, he's just kind of he's a very professional guy. And I think he's very quiet off. We don't really see him talk much off the field as well. He just kind of plays his game, and he's that guy. And I think for him, if I was to speculate, I think he sees it as a job, but I also think that he loves his job. And so I think he just lets his actions show. He seems like a pretty quiet guy, and but his hair, like that hair, you don't have a personality with hair like that. Like he has that kind of pompadour. Like I can see him in like a 50s motorcycle jacket, like going around. Like he has this kind of style, and I'll forever just love that guy. And
Fits Columbus well, man. They you know what, they need to get him like a fellow of your grind. There's really a fellowship to these guys, and they cherish having someone from their country that to be with, and the families can hang out. I'm not joking. It's a real thing. So when I see him, I get kind of sad because it seems like all my friends left me and I'm just here in Ohio, So, but he's carrying the team and he's being paid to do that. He was brought in to do so, and Columbus will reload, right? And I think LAFC caught him at a good time where they're still figuring out what they're gonna do without Cucho, and now we move on, buddy. We got to the big dance, as we call it. Yeah, look at this. We get to play the big boys.
Yeah, man. Sorry. If Cucho is still there, I'm not sure that we get through that round.
Fuck that. That's just I wish and wondering, and if this guy, if Cucho's there, maybe Giroud's better, so we just don't know. The thing is, he moved on, and they didn't replace his ass, and I love it, and we caught him, and Wilfred took 3 here with a roster that I did not see anything. And it was, while it was concerned that we lost there, we addressed this. It's a Continental Cup. It's supposed to have some spice, and we move on. And here it is. We got the bracket going on here. And as you know, we're going to be playing Miami, dude. Like, what is this called? It's going to be April 2nd at BMO. The first leg's going to be there. Messi and his friends are going to be visiting. And I know you have some bad news to tell me. Do you want to talk about the bad news about the Messi game right now, or not yet?
Well, I mean, are you referring
the fact that you're not attending is what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. I'm going to be out of town that weekend.
So. Just tough. I had to give you that one because it's a big tough one. But you were at the first one, you know what I mean? And
I was.
If you're like Messi, me, you're not massified.
I'm gonna, if I'm lucky here, and especially if Messi, his injury turns out to be small and he plays, I'm hoping that somebody's going to pay a healthy chunk of my season tickets off with this game.
Look, yeah.
I mean, Preach, and this is another thing. A lot of people didn't opt into this game, and I very nearly didn't opt in as well. And I kind of looked at us like, it's almost like gambling. It's like, are we going to
let those guys opt in who really want to?
Are we going to get to that Miami game, or are we going to get past Columbus? And I felt like on paper, Columbus was weaker than they have been. So I felt like we had a good shot of it. And then it's like, do we make the finals? Because that's a really expensive ticket too. And that's why you opt in, is like for those games. Because otherwise, Colorado, tickets were half price. Look at the other bracket, Vancouver Pumas. Like Vancouver has a good shot. Could we see a 2-leg against Vancouver if we get past Miami? I mean, man,
brother, at this point, MLS. I just want LAFC Vancouver and then a final against Carson, and then I'll just start laughing. And then I'll just start laughing because then we'll first off, like, shut up, Liga MX, with the argument that you're better. But I doubted that no Liga MX team will survive out of this. I don't believe Vancouver has 2 in them. But it did make it a little bit easier on us because I thought Monterrey was going to be a lot better than they've shown so far. And Pumas, man, they're a great team, and I love the fact that they're going to be the ones coming to to our stadium maybe to play this game if indeed we go through Miami.
Look, this Vancouver team, I mean, they're 4-0 in league play as well. Like they have Vancouver is they're the hottest team in the league right now. And I think they kind of get disrespected a bit because it's Vancouver and they've always kind of been a mid to low table team and they haven't really changed much. But this Vancouver team, man, they are firing. And like I said, they're 4-0 in the league play, and they got past Monterrey with a 2-2 result on the road. Yeah. They had a 1-1 at home and then a 2-2 on the road and went through on away goals. Like in Monterrey, like that. Look, you have to take a team seriously when they're doing this. So, I mean, this is going to be different from our previous Vancouver matchups, projecting that we get this far. They're a completely different monster than we have played. And I think they're kind of the team that nobody wants to play in this tournament right now.
I disagree because we have their number, and I much rather play them than the Liga MX team. But if you like the spicy, tournament matchups, you want Pumas because you want LAFC to go through a Liga MX team, beat a Liga MX team, and show that we can do that not only once but maybe twice. That is if Carson doesn't find a way to beat two of them, and suddenly we can have an LA VLA Concacaf Champions final. Like, what percentage chance do you put a LA VLA Concacaf Champions final right now? Like, it's from 0 to 100, just for fun.
Oh, 0.
I love it. Come on, man.
I don't.
Come on.
Look. Here's the thing, and Mikey in the chat mentioned too that he says Club America looks unstoppable, and I mean, look, Club America Cruz Azul, big match. I mean, that's whoever comes out of that is going to be a very tough matchup. Tigres also solid team. They might be, Gignac. I'm not sure how much gas that guy has left, but they should be able to get through a very injured Carson team that's going to be injured for a chunk of the year. I still don't think they're going to have Pansel back for this game. America Tigres or Cruz Azul Tigres. I mean, any one of those three teams is going to be brutal. If Carson somehow makes it through, I mean, that'll be hilarious. And open to taking humiliating bets that they won't, but
you think America looks unstoppable? Club America looks unstoppable. You know who looks unstoppable to me? Cruz Azul and El Polaco. So I'm almost becoming a Cruz Azul fan. For if I had to choose like a Liga MX team, I like Club America because they have Jardini, and Jardini is a Brazilian coach.
Which I think B-Rod.
I'm one of the masterminds. No, not the reason why I like Club America. And also because Foot will always like Club America, and they're just kind of obsessed. Like,
shout out to Foot.
That team. Shout out to Foot. He's had some interesting comments on my feed. Like, we're friends again. I love it. So we're back.
He has interesting comments in everybody's feed.
But and that's cool. He had a lot to say about the entry this week at BMO, which again, I'm gonna keep it to myself because I don't want to sound like an old man here. And I did take my kids, and I was disappointed with the entry process. After 5 years, it should be smoother. And that's all.
I heard it was a mess getting
it. It was hard. I got frisked pretty hard, and I was just like, this is kind of crazy, but it is what it is. We'll move on. Let's go back to the bracket here. But look, I mean, if Carson can do it, two Liga MX teams, what I can see here is this. LA, and we're just dominate the scene, right? California soccer is really strong. Miami makes a statement, but who's making it happen in soccer in America is California with the LA teams, right? Vancouver makes a statement. Shout out to them. Hey, by the way, what happened there? They're doing okay. They're mediocre. They changed the coach, Erik. Massive pop to Vancouver. Now suddenly they are unstoppable under this dude. I had no idea where he comes from, but he comes in and changes it around for them, and they look really good. Pochettino suddenly finds Brian White as a 9 for the U.S. men's national, and I've been vocal about the fact that Vancouver sometimes disappears, dude. In the scheme of things, but it looks like they're a very strong team and competitors, but I don't know if they can get past two the MX teams. I'm going to be honest. It takes a certain animal and a certain amount of roster power to do that, unless you're really going on a Cinderella run.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was still a little surprising that Vancouver got rid of Nickelback superfan Vinny Sartini.
You know what? I think that just kind of ran its course, and the ownership change and everything that was going on. We have some coverage up there with some of the guys, and it's a saying like you excel, but you exceed, right, the expectations as much as you should. But I think it was kind of a mutual decision, and honestly, I see LAFC and Dolo kind of breaking up like that more than just kind of like it's gonna be like a mutual thing and a gradual thing. I think he's gonna surprise us when he decides to leave. And it's not going to be it's going to be on his terms is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, Sartini definitely he got that team to take a step forward from, their perennial bottom of the table to kind of a mid-table team, mid to upper table, but not quite a top team. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if their next coach can really get the most. And so far, so good. But we know it's a long season, it's a long grind. But
Yeah.
first half
But
is all
look,
about Champions Cup.
to close out here a half hour of the show, which is a good moment to start swinging around here. But just to close out on the Messi discussion, first off, if Messi and Suarez are healthy, it's always a question mark. Now Messi's showing up, questionable and all yada yada yada. Massive task for LAFC. I think it will shut everybody up if Dolo can eliminate Messi from Concacaf Champions. It is the test. You almost hope that they're both healthy so we can see it with our eyes, right? It has to at least be very close. But I think this is the test for us more than we've ever had as a franchise, facing these guys for continental glory. And look, LAFC's record in this cup is excellent. So if we can get past these guys, I think we can make a true run and actually get the title this time, either against could be America or Tigres or whoever it may be, right? Am I crazy here? Or isn't Miami sort of the step for us? I think whoever comes out of that Vancouver Pumas gets destroyed by us if indeed we come out swinging against Miami. Don't you think?
I think we should be favored. We should be favored in the game. I don't want to. I can't talk.
Not in the series though.
Like that. I mean, and who knows? Maybe they finally take a shit fall on their face and Pumas goes through. In which case, of all of the Liga MX teams left on, Pumas is probably the softest of all of them. Followed by Tigres, who is, as Mikey points out, Gignac is recovering from an injury, so that's but he's an older fella, nonetheless.
Yeah, those guys will come in form though. We'll see.
Another interesting thing is that we are, we've been in this tournament twice and we've gotten to the final twice. So
right. Yeah,
LAFC
we have
going
excellent
3 for 3
record
on getting the final would certainly be something, and I don't want to think about
Yeah, but look, what cannot happen, and I know we don't have a ton of audience, we're just getting started here, 5 episodes in, but we cannot happen is that place becomes pink and it's home field advantage Messi. And I have a feeling that unfortunately it's going to be a big Messi following there because a lot of LAFC fans like you, maybe not going to be there, are going to try to capitalize on what are, really strong prices. And we are not Eastern Conference, so we don't get to play that guy. He's coming out. So I get it that you're trying to maximize on the value of your tickets, right? It's understandable that you're there, but don't you think that's really going to dictate who's going to show up and who's going to pay top dollar? It's the Messi fan, no? Not the LAFC fan that's concerned about the form.
I think it's going to be a lot of, if Messi's in there, Messi could end up being injured and miss the whole thing, and
that would change things.
Which honestly, I will not care because our chances of going through become much better without him on the field. So I mean, I'll take a bath and sell my tickets for $50 each if that means Messi's not there and we can go through. I don't even care. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of the people who will be in those stands aren't necessarily going to be Miami fans. There are probably a lot of them aren't going to be regular MLS fans either. They're just there for the spectacle that is Lionel Messi. In which case, it's it's not going to be the huge home crowd noise as is usually, but the 3252 is still going to be there, and 90% of the noise in that stadium is coming from them anyways. So I'm not worried too much about the atmosphere. It's just going to be a bunch of people sipping tea with their pinky up. Oh, it's Lionel Messi, and I paid $1,000 to see him.
I hope not, but it will be a lot of celebrity. There's a little bit of a cross there and a little bit of a scene, and
maybe Pogba's going to show up.
You need it. Messi. You need some of the glam. It's part of making the sport a spectacle and making a reach. You saw some of that this weekend, Erik. Messi, in this game against Atlanta, I was telling you early, we got 10x, maybe 15x the readership on that article for the game against Atlanta that I usually get on territorial articles for any of our games. And LAFC does really well on territorial, which is one of the reasons why I do it exclusively. But look, it's the guy, and I think unfortunately with the Tuesday too, with the day of the week, Wednesday, it's a bit, it's still a weekday, right? In LA is
they're pushing this game to 8:30.
Right, and they're pushing in an hour so that everybody can get there, which I like. I actually enjoy that.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody
If you're
involved.
on the East Coast and it kicks off 11:30.
But if you're in the East Coast, it kills the viewership, which tells you a little bit about the television product, which can be talked about in its own show. But we're not here also to criticize,
Yeah.
But look, it is what it is. Messi's coming, and if he is not playing, we absolutely have a bigger chance to go through. But I still don't think it's it's automatically LAFC goes through. We've looked better in Concacaf Champions than we've looked in anywhere else, especially at home. Let's transition a little bit to our Wolves. The game against Austin, as you mentioned earlier, we were both there, sat next to you, buddy. It's always great to be there in the stadium. I did a bit of a hybrid, did the interviews afterwards, but sat in my seats, enjoyed the time with my girls, saw them dance. As you saw, the atmosphere was great. It was a very early kickoff, which was kind of like, I think, threw everyone off a little bit. I was a little sleepy, right? But I think for the most part,
it reminds me of our first couple seasons, the early kickoff.
Even the players were sleepy, I think, because we ended up registering the lowest XG of the season. Very, very slow game.
It felt like, I think the last time
shut out for the first time too. Go ahead.
Yeah, the last time I really remember a 12:30 kickoff, I think was like 2019. It was like pre-COVID that we really had those afternoon games because, the seats were usually not in the sun, but like we're in the sun till like 12:40. And I was like, it's been a while since my seats are in the sun.
Yeah, I know. I had not sat in like a sunny spot for a while too. And, the stadium did not look super, super full, right? Like it seemed like there was some holes, especially like in our section. I noticed, I know some of it was the entry problems, right? But, I'm going to pull it up here, just kind of let's get through this, it's just a Google real quick representation of our lineup here. We had Lloris up in goal, Palencia and Hollingshead were the fullbacks. I wanted to see Smoliakov start. It didn't. Tafari and Long were the center backs on the 4-3-3. And then the midfield, Delgado, Tillman, Jesus. Wow, a lot to talk about with the three of them. On the injury report, Giroud was out, earlier on ruled out. Denis Bouanga and Ünder making his first start with Ebobis as the 9 there. For Austin, of course, we'll talk Ilya as the captain starting for them. The Brazilian Guilherme Biro as the left back there. We'll have a little bit talk about left backs and what they should do for you and what Biro does for this team. And, and then they feature Brandon Vasquez, which is kind of, honestly, I actually forgot he was there, to be honest. I was like, oh, that Brandon Vasquez, after I was watching the highlights, because he was so quiet, did not play well. I think his biggest highlight, as you saw there, was the yellow card. But what did you think of the LAFC lineup? Let's start with that. The 4-3-3 with Ünder getting his first start for LAFC.
Yeah, it's kind of how I expected. I didn't know if Ünder would get the start, but he did get the start. I thought it might happen. The Palencia Hollingshead starting was, to me, also a little bit. It seems like at the end of the stretch, it's time to get some other guys out there to run. I do agree with Smoliakov. I would have liked to see him. I do think that he's probably one of the better crossers we have on our team, and to me, one of our huge problems attacking is just a lack of any viable crossing at all. This is a huge issue. And even if you look, for example, that first Atlanta goal, the cross came from right around like the edge of the box to like 25 yards out from the touchline. And nobody ever crosses from that area for us. Yeah. And this is such a dangerous spot to cross. And it's where you can kind of get those guys running in, but it just doesn't happen. So Hollingshead playing inverted, he's not a strong crosser with his left foot. What Hollingshead is good at is crashing the box, but you crash the box, like who's getting the service to you? So it
well, statistically too, LAFC dominated possession, which we haven't seen. We've seen some pretty one-sided possessions on the other, going the other way. But LAFC this time 65-35. And I noticed in the first half, both fullbacks going up strong to get that advantage. And it's part of Dolo ball where the two guys out in the back really charge to press it and they find space, right? The problem, as you've noticed and as you've mentioned, is that the service from Palencia is not as good, and Hollingshead is a little bit older, so it exposes that side defensively sometimes for us. And we've seen that. But when both are healthy and, with tank full, right, they're excellent. And they seem to have been sort of the de facto starters for LAFC. But yeah. I think for this game, I was disappointed not to have one of those guys just sit. And, we start seeing the idea of, introduce that really young left back, right, so that he can start kind of carving his space within the starters at home. So, again, the Palencia... the Palacios of 2025, right? Like that guy that can really come in and athletically change a game for you, show strength, while these other guys are really gassed from playing a midweek game.
Yeah. I mean, the downside with Artem or anybody else, the one thing that Hollingshead and Palencia do well is they defend well, and that's, with Artem. His defending isn't quite as good. His positioning isn't as good. And he does have a tendency to lose the ball more often just in the dribble than Hollingshead does. So he's a bit more of a liability back there. But the trade-off is you have a little more on the offense. And
right. Palencia, I think with a team, dude, but if a team that you're beating 65-35 in possession and is not generating that many chances as Austin did not, right? And we'll talk about the goal here.
No, they played a low block.
But, you know what I mean? There was just not much going out of them. So, I think that's where I see the criticism of Dolo, right? It's like where you knew these guys were coming here and planting everybody inside. So what are you doing to try to counter some of it? This widening moment of LAFC where Denis Bouanga is, completely taken out of the game and may have had his worst game yet for LAFC, which, by the way, he's not getting any, and he probably doesn't want to sit. And I think that's also a conversation to be had. Hey, man, it seems like you need to take a sit sometimes during these games because you're going so hard in CCL. So I didn't love the starting lineup, number one, because I wanted to see a different fullback back there. And then let's, again, address a little bit the defensive lapse here during the corner, which I thought it was. And Guilherme Biro, the left back from Austin, beats what I thought was our captain, Aaron Long, and one of the tallest guys in our defense, 1v1 for that ball. Am I reading these different? Marky Delgado is sort of the I would call him the flanker, right? He's kind of the second guy, and he's late, and they both look at each other a little bit lost. That's how I read that goal. Talk about not asking hard questions to players. I had to leave the conference room, and I did not ask Aaron, hey, what happened in that goal? I do not know if anybody asked him if he lost Beto, if that was not his guy, or if he felt he lost that 1v1. But to me, that was an individual effort from the Brazilian Guilherme, which beat our captain, Aaron Long, in a 1v1 situation to put Austin up 1-0 once again within 11 and 15 minutes of the game, which is a crime. And what did Verde Nation told us? Repeat. Go ahead. What did they say? They said, hey, go ahead. What did he say?
You refresh me on this one.
Oh, they said if we score early, we score first,
that's right.
We win the game. Sorry, I think you zoned out there. It's all good. But honestly, that's to me.
No, I did. I was trying to remember. I was like, that show last.
No, because you said it early in the show. I'm like, you know that. But it's all good.
No, you said when the opponent scores first, they lose 90% of the time.
Absolutely, and especially against LAFC, it's been the secret sauce. So. Again, they're not stupid, and Ilya knew that too coming into it. Hey, if we get them early, then we'll just plant ourselves defensively, right, and widen them as much as we can, and then we're going to control the game. Just let them have the ball, and that's exactly what they did. And Nico, kind of having played us with Dallas, I think had a little bit of that formula too. So it's kind of had our numbers, don't you think? It's kind of how I read that game.
If you look at how that game was, they played us just like how Colorado tried to play us and how Minnesota tried to play us. They were just successful at it. And Colorado and Minnesota were very close to being successful with it, So I think as it goes, this is going to be the formula of how to play LAFC. You force LAFC to have possession. You occupy the center of the field, and you let them advance down the sidelines because if you do that, there's not much that they're going to be able to do with the ball. Sitting on the side where Palencia worked on the attack, and I know I'm deviating a bit from the corner, which basically I completely agree with you on that. Like, this was a defensive lapse. They let Biro get away. Biro got himself into the position, and that was it. There's nothing Lloris can do to stop that shot. Like, that was on the defense to not let that shot be so easy.
What's funny, Eric? I actually had no idea that Guilherme scored because you saw I had 3 little girls with me. I'm like trying to get these girls to a game. I live in Ventura County now. I can't go to every game, so I'm scoring all these little girls around. They have to go to the bathroom. Things happen when you go to the bathroom.
That's nachos.
But I was like, I'm gonna go get some nachos, and then I see the goal, but I had no idea it was Guilherme that scored. And typically when the Brazilian guys score, I like to go talk to them. But I'm glad I didn't know about it because I stick with LAFC. Got to see some stuff too, but. It was the Brazilian that scored for us. He's a great example of a fullback that is the perfect MLS guy, right? And in the beginning of the season, I put a short list together of some dudes. The Corinthians backup left back was excellent and was just sitting there, and a couple other guys in the Brazilian league that would have fit our roster really well, right? And look, I'm excited for Smoliakov, but if he's that young and that green, maybe we should have thought of bringing another bridge guy that can be that third fullback for us, because when I saw Palencia walk out of the field around the 65th minute, that man looked gassed, and it just.
He did.
Just had that look on his face. He's not even looking at the field. I don't even know if he's tired or frustrated.
No, all game he got drove down into the corner flag, and all he could really do was a couple times he was able to try to make a cross that got deflected into a corner. But basically, with our attacks down the wings, the best we can do is win a corner out of it, and nothing else more threatening. Typically, what he would do is then turn and pass the ball back to Tillman. And Tillman, instead of picking a cross from there at that 25-yard spot, he would then turn and put it back to the center back, and we would just recycle the whole thing, And this one of those things, Tillman is definitely, I think, the most regressed player from last year. To me, he's really struggling. He looked much better last year than he does this year. Kind of, Tillman is where creativity and attacks go to die, and.
Oh my God, man! What is going on with that midfield? So I saw someone in our chat blame Igor Jesus for our Wolves, and I did eye roll.
I've seen Igor Jesus slander, and I'm like,
no. I mean, it's like, look, that's fine. But I don't believe he's the issue there. I don't think he's been great. I don't think he's yet replaced Ilya Sanchez. And I wanted you to ask, at this point, the beginning of the season, we're not going to remember Ilya, but based on what I saw this weekend, everybody remember Ilya, and it was a little bit of man, I think we let the wrong man go, didn't we?
Look, Igor Jesus, he's clearing Ilya Sanchez in that game. If you put Ilya instead of Igor Jesus, are we going to have a different result? No.
You are, because he's going to be subbed out at 65 minutes, so you have different sub pattern, which is my issue with Ilya. Sorry, we're paying you $1 million to be a 65-minute player, and that's not good for LAFC. Go ahead.
Igor Jesus plays excellent defense. His marking is good. His recovery is good. Also, he does that job that Atuesta would do last season, which is he draws in defenders, he dribbles around them and outlets the ball so that we can get space. I mean, a lot of pushing the ball into the opponent's half comes from Igor Jesus holding the ball and outletting the ball. At least this is something we have. I think sometimes he gets into attacking third, and we have such little creativity from the rest of our midfield that Igor Jesus at least will try to put that through ball in. It's usually not successful, but you don't want your 6 being your creative playmaker up front. This is not putting him in the correct position either. He should be back playing with the center backs, but Tillman and Delgado, great work rate. He plays more like a 6. Tillman is good.
Second. It's the second. We call him the A is the second 6. If you play a 2-6 system. Very common. And he plays with that 8. He's a perfect 8, but he doesn't offer as much I don't know. He's not a dynamic player, and he's also a bit older, right? He's not explosive. He doesn't create his own shot either. You know what I mean? So we need these guys in there, right?
No, for sure, for sure. To me, with our midfield, like Tillman is the guy that we need a creative spark. Like, everybody come after me now, but if we would have moved Tillman and kept Atuesta, like Atuesta makes those passes forward, and all of a sudden teams have to worry about covering the middle of the field because, the professor will put that line breaking pass into the, at the key at the top of the box, and he'll have that vision. We don't have that with our midfielders, and it makes us completely one-dimensional. And I think a creative midfield is what we're lacking in our attack. And maybe Martinez can shift into a midfield and provide that.
He needs to be that guy. But I think they want him on that right winger position, or whatever it is. They want him further forward. But no, I believe he needs to play in the midfield on top of the box, right? In front of those three guys to create triangles in both sides. Like, so the knee's not so isolated. If you remember the goal on Nathan Ordaz against Minnesota, it came from what it was like a false pivot, almost a triangle play where Ordaz was just sitting there on top of the box. So there has to be that one player, which, by the way, that was Mateus Bogusz's role, and he was doing it really well. So, again, I did not like the flat three. You come out with really three guys that are more defensive-minded than anything. If you really think Tillman of a super creative guy, I don't know.
No, he's a defensive guy.
He's also a tweener, right? He's like the small forward in basketball, right? He's kind of the guy that doesn't really have a role. And meanwhile you have Martinez, another young guy. Sorry, I was gonna say that that man needs to start. And I don't know why he's not getting the start every time, because there's no creative outlet until he's on the field. So he's ready, guys. Come on, let the man go. Don't be shy, even if it costs you a goal, because right now you're not creating enough. The XG of this game was 1.2. We have 10 shots. So, it's not happening. We have to figure out ways to create shots in the first half, not in the second half. Tough game to watch, man.
Yeah, and I don't want people to take me the wrong way with Tillman. Tillman does a lot of things really good. His pressing is good. He plays really well off the ball. But I think that's just not what we need in that position. I think if you slot Martinez in for Tillman, we're going to have a lot of extra creativity. But Martinez is not the defender Tillman is. And a lot of these games, a lot of these clean sheets come because Tillman's out there. If the goal is to get 0-0 games or 0-1 games, a Tillman, Delgado, Jesus midfield is probably a good way to keep a clean sheet. But the thing is your opponent has a good chance of also keeping a clean sheet. And that's kind of the trade-off.
And these tight games don't help. And all it takes is one, and we've had these, we concede a lot in, corners and free kicks and penalty kicks, right? And the things that it's not a goal, but hey, there was a penalty kick against Colorado on the box, and there's another handball. So that doesn't help us either. So I'm
optimistic though with this that with all the hectic schedule that we had in February and into March, 2 games a week, as Trondolo said in the past. You're just recovering and you're playing the next game. You don't really have time to go to the practice. You don't really have time to work on anything. It's just play, study tape, and recover, and that's it. Right. And so since they have a couple weeks with one, we have a Kansas City game coming up, which we haven't talked about.
Let's talk about that. Let's do it.
It's whatever. It's another wooden spoon team. It's
but it's a good test. It's a good test to recover, right, and rebound. Because let's move on to this. I think we've talked about a lot about it. People are very upset with Trundle, right? And rightfully so. I looked at the schedule last year, pretty slow start for LAFC, and eventually we went on a run, right? So I'm still not and we are not playing another tournament like we are now. So, let things play out a little bit. We're still just 4 games in. We're in the 8th spot on the West. And we have SKC coming on this weekend. And after that is Houston. So 2 really kind of not very great teams in the Western Conference to really boost our ego and prepare us for this matchup against, we'll have San Diego also, but prepare for the match against San Diego. And if we go into the Miami game riding a 3-game winning streak, I think we're all going to feel much better about ourselves than we felt today, right? As you saw on my cover, I have 3 X's there on each of those games. It sucks. We haven't had too many of these 3-game losing streaks to break down, Erik. So, look, what did you think? Is this the perfect chance then to turn things around? And what are you going to be looking at this game against SKC?
Well, I mean, I think number one, which we all have seen in the last 2 games, is we have another DP on the team right now. And I think having another DP is going to be a huge benefit to us.
Right.
Give the longer under practices with the team, the more of a threat he's going to be, the more everybody's going to link up. And at the very least, as Bouanga's completely getting double teamed constantly, if they now have to double team Under over there as well, because he becomes the threat. And man, he didn't miss by much on a couple.
Did
couple
not.
Shots.
He had a great game.
Nice left-footed
talk ball. Yes.
Yeah. And as he gets warmed up, I think on that. Well, it puts up, but said the same thing with Martinez when he starts putting those in, and he hasn't. Martinez keeps putting them high and wide as well. But if these guys start hitting that top bin, and those go in, it's a totally different game. And Under looks like a little more polishing up, and he's going to be hitting these shots. And then, all of a sudden we become scary and winning games 3-4-0.
That's what we need. We need a big, in my opinion, like offensive statement win, no 2-1 or 1-0 sweat. Like, I get it. But at the same time, we all talk about how hard it is to get points on the road against MLS teams anywhere. And, it's just another test. We got Jovic out there. It's one of those players that had kind of luck with us. So, I'm concerned for LAFC. You're riding a 3-game losing streak. You have a lot of distractions with this Messi thing in front of you. Like, you clearly favoring that cup, right? And it's very easy to go on the road and lose games. So I really hope this having the whole week to reset will help these boys really, like, because we need 3 points now, right? Like this is almost like I'm gonna call it a must win because there's no must wins now, but I think it's very important for the confidence of this team going to to really have a win under their belt. No, am I crazy here? Not really, right?
Oh no, I mean
the confidence factor is all I'm trying to get out of this, right?
Yeah.
That has to be improvement. It must be hard on them.
I mean, obviously, for this, I'll be upset with a loss. It won't be the end of the world for me. What I want to see is the attack.
Man, a loss would be troubling, bro. Like, because then I got Bob Bradley last season's vibe, right? Because remember that it was Mamadou Fall's first game, and we lose to an SKC team that we were like, oh god, Graham Susie's playing, and they're beating us with guys. Sorry, I cut you off there, but if we lose, I get concerned because there's really no excuse to lose SKC right now. You tie, all right, but you lose to them.
I mean. KC, they're going to be playing bunker ball against us too. I think we're going to see similar tactics that we've been struggling against. And really, what I want to see is our attack be more creative and less one-dimensional. And I think for me, just seeing that, knowing that's something to build off, because I mean, we pick what we want. If we win the Shield this year, I don't really care. It's the Champions Cup that I want to see us build. So if they are spending this week working on some new tactics and how to incorporate Cengiz into the lineup and everything else, and starting to make things click there, I'm really more concerned about that than I'm going to be concerned with the result in the game. I mean, I know losing sucks, but I guess how we lose. If we lose in a bad way, of course, then I'm going to be all over it. But if it's if our attack is lifeless and we leak another goal on a corner kick, that's going to be concerning as well. Now, if we mess with our midfield, if we put a Martinez in there or somebody more attacking, and it ends up being a 3-2 loss because we are attacking and we get the other team attacks because our defense isn't there, I'll feel better about that. So to say basically what the result is, I won't necessarily be upset with a bad result. It's how we look to get that bad results. There's bad results I'll be really upset with. There's a bad result I won't be as upset with. I just want to see I want to see some chemistry with this game, and I want to see some creative ideas and things that can give me confidence
some new
that we're
things
building on. I want to see us
some
build.
new things to build on. I love that. So with that, let's talk a little bit lineup here. You know, I have a feeling LAFC will field its best 11 for this game. There's not a lot of more. Looks like Marlon's going to be fine, you know, for what we understand. But he's not going to be ready. But outside of him, we're going to have our best 11 in there. Like, can you walk me through what that should look like? Would you make any changes on the fullbacks as we've discussed? And, you know, of course, the midfield being a concern. And, of course, Mr. Giroud, what you do with him. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about who you start this weekend in Kansas.
Yeah. Our best 11. I don't want to see our best 11 out. Like, I want to see.
Why not? We got three weeks almost. Come on, man. There's no Miami factor right now. It's a week, and you put your best guys out there. Come on.
Oh, we still have another week before Miami at least.
Yeah. There's at least 2 games. No, there's 3 games. We got 3 games. We got 3 games. We got this one. We got Houston, and we got San Diego right before them. You know what I mean? Which is going to be a massive game for all the reasons that you know, right? So, you know, if you're going to rotate, you rotate San Diego, right?
Here's our if we're putting out our best 11, you know, I'll break down what that looks like. It's not what I want to see, but it's going to be Hollingshead, Long, Palencia, and
Tafari on the
Tafari right now with Marlon out, or Segura, Tafari or Segura. You know,
okay, so Segura did not play over the weekend, and the center backs played 90 minutes. So you go back to Segura then on Tafari, because I think now Tafari has really pushed Segura to the 5th spot, you know, and you know, fighting for Marlon when he comes back. Tafari is the clear starter to me.
Yeah.
I'm on the anti-Segura train. I know I don't want to start a Segura thing, but you know, I really think Segura is a really good backup, but maybe he will start. Maybe he will start.
Look, I think that we have better results with Segura in there as opposed to Tafari. You know,
that's true.
And I also wonder if on
does
that communication lapse happen on that corner kick if Segura's in there? You know, the guys totally. Maybe the marking doesn't get botched because they're just more familiar. So if we're just best 11, that's it. Midfield, Igor Jesus, Tillman, Delgado. Up front is going to be Bouanga, Under instead of Martinez, and Abobasi. Like, that's our best 11. But I would like, as I said, I would like to see us. This game is the best game for them to try other ideas, I think, because when we get into Houston and San Diego, we're starting to get closer to Miami, and then it's time to really hone it down. Yeah, but I would not mind seeing that experiment of Martinez in the midfield with Delgado and Igor Jesus playing more of a double pivot and letting Martinez play more of a let Martinez play a 10 role as opposed to Tillman. You know, and if that's the case, we probably want Hollingshead and Palencia to shore up the defense. If we're going to go Tillman in the midfield, then I think it's time to give Smolyakov and try to get more attack with our fullbacks. So different pieces there.
Right.
There's also Yaya Boa, but I think that guy continues to stay as depth. And then up front in this case,
depth guy.
Up front, let's do Under Bouanga and Abobasi, but I also think maybe throw our Daz in the 9 and just see how that works, and maybe you have something different with that. Nah, probably not. Keep it Abobasi. I'm just thinking out loud with that.
Okay, I got to respond to that because I actually think you got to start Giroud. You have to stop with this. So he has to.
If he's healthy, if Giroud is healthy,
he has to start. So now we assume that he's not healthy. That's okay.
I agree. If he's healthy, he should start. But I'm assuming he's not.
I think he just asked for a game off. But if I don't know if he's really injured, he's injured. But if he's healthy, he has to start. This whole thing of Bobisi starting over him to me is uncomfortable because he's not showing that he can be effective off the bench. It's starting to make him look disinterested. He comes in, sits in the bench. And I really believe that we just have to find a way to make him play his best football. And that probably means moving him up front and let him find connection with Cengiz. Sorry, I'm gonna be It's really hard
like
for me to say.
Django. It's like
Yes,
Django.
changes. And also with Bouanga, which has been an issue, like, it's non existent between the two of them. So they will have to figure this out, and it hasn't happened yet. And look, I also need to talk to you real quick about what happened there. We have Paul Pogba in the house. Actually, two people, and I have some news on that. We see Paul Pogba there and Cifuentes in the house. But what do you think of the Paul Pogba thing? Do you think there's any chance he plays for LAFC on a TAM deal or something like that? And then suddenly we have everybody there. My daughter's trying to get on the broadcast. That's funny. What do you think?
Man, I mean, this gets tough. So we know from the release we have right around 600K in TAM right now, right?
Yeah, we're about 600,000. I saw that on the report.
So that would mean, right, with the base salary, I think is 350 plus 650. So the max we could pay him is basically $1 million. If he'll come up, if Paul Pogba will come here for $1 million until the end of the year, I mean, this is an absolute no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer. Like, you take that. But I'm not sure that we can get him for basically $1 million or less. Although, he looked.
We've done things like this before, man.
Yeah, because for him, this is not going to be about the money. It's going to be about playing with his buddies Giroud and Lloris, and maybe saving Giroud's job.
Well, and not only that, but also the fact that he needs to come back, right? He's kind of like he's been out of it. So I think it's just a nice, easy landing place for a guy to kind of get his mojo back, and essentially just become what he's always been. So that's kind of what I see of that, and there's a marketing plan for him. So I like that. I really like that.
It could be the best of all worlds for sure. Paul Pogba, you should come here and take that deal and get out there. As far as Cifuentes,
sorry, guys.
Cifuentes, I don't know. Like he's not really the guy that if all right, let's say we pick him up and he swaps for Tillman. Like what does that really give us differently than we have now? Like Cifuentes was kind of another physical press monster that really couldn't quite get it together in the final third. So that creativity, he's not really bringing it to us. It's kind of a duplicative role. Also, Cifuentes has really struggled since he left here. He's on like his third club since he left, and he hasn't really quite.
No, he's playing well, man. He's playing really well over there in Greece now.
Oh, that's right.
Now he's good. Now he's good. Okay, so
Rangers, he didn't really work. Cruzeiro, he didn't work at all.
It did not work out at Cruzeiro, but like a lot of guys go to Brazil and don't work out. That's okay. It's not a bad thing there. He's a very young dude. Greece, I don't believe they really have a serious league, so I think they just kind of took that player out. I think that man is a candidate to come back to MLS, and I can confirm to you, if you're watching it, you get rewarded with a little tidbit of information that I can confirm to you that he's working on coming back to MLS, and LAFC is one of the teams that he may be looking at. He didn't say anything for certain, but he did say that he would love to come back to MLS, and he's working on it. So it's all I know. Believe in what you want. He was there. You saw it. I posted on my social media. And I really believe he would be a great depth piece for LAFC. He's an alum. We see these guys come back from abroad when it doesn't work out and get a reset here. That there should be a pros for him. If he doesn't end up here, Eric, he's going to end up in Orlando with Atuesta. And look, all the Palmeiras people are going into Territorio's website trying to find out what's going on with that, man, because he's playing well there. He's playing really well for the Lions, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this could happen.
El Prof is a good player, but if Cifuentes didn't come here, which and we haven't talked about Odin Holm, which allegedly is also a midfielder, but we definitely could use more depth.
Oh, the legend of Odin Holm.
You know what? I think Cifuentes would be. I think like San Jose would be a good fit. He could join Chicho Arango up there and Joseph Martinez, and I think that would
it's be like the Bad Boys Club or something, bro. Like, I don't know. Like, let's keep Sifu here in SoCal.
I could see him fitting into San Jose really nicely up there.
I don't like that at all, man. But hey, I respect that, and I think that's I love Sifu, so I think I want to see him succeed. He's a really young guy, right, and had some really good moments for us. here at LAFC.
I just think he's
you know,
redundant. His skill set's redundant for what we have right now. Like, we don't need another guy.
Look, bro, like he was our third scorer. I know we're going over here, but now I'm going to defend my man because he was a third scorer at some point. Right now, who's our third scorer? We don't have one. We do not have one, man, and it's
probably
concerning to me.
Hollingshead at this point, isn't it?
Thank you. Like, that's insane that our fullback's our third best scorer. That is a problem with guys just put them in the net, man, and I'm very concerned with it. I haven't seen it yet. Ebelbe's okay, maybe, but he's going to be the, he's a center forward. He's going to always have a guy on him, and it's hard to score on this league as a center forward. We know, ask Giroud that, right? Ask Bernardo Vasquez. Nobody's talking about the fact that he might be a bust, right? Like, nobody's giving him a hard time. Like, he did not show up at all. I didn't even know he was on the field. So, look, I think Cifuentes could be a really good. I'm not saying go sign the man because he's not going to be cheap, and he's not the perfect solution for our problems. And if we can get a Griezmann or if we get some of these other guys, even better. But at the same time, if he's willing and able, and he's another guy for us to bring it in the 65th minute, or when someone is not working out in that midfield, which looked like a snooze fest, bro. Like, I am all for Seafood coming back here, and getting some notoriety again, and maybe we move him for a bunch of money, right? Who knows? Maybe he comes in on the cheap and we move him again for a lot of money. But real quick before we get out of here, buddy, I know we're over the hour. What is your expectation in terms of scoring for this game? Ask KC.
Can I just say for the score that
You've been hot, so come on.
As long as both teams have fun, that's all that really matters.
Both teams to score. Okay, thank you very much. I'm gonna include on my picks.
I think Kansas City is just such garbage, man. Like,
I know. Come on. Yeah.
I'm gonna. All right, 2-1. 2-1. We're winning, and we're super happy next week.
2-1. I love it. I think that's a great score, but I want more. I think this is the statement. This is, I think this is a game that LAFC is going to find answers. I'm confident. I trusted the process. All right, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. I like Dola's work. I know it's pragmatic. It's boring at times. It doesn't always work out. Guys get burned out. But I think we're having we win more than we lose, right? And against a team like SKC, we kind of have their number. They don't really offer a ton. You got Eric Tommy and Jovic. I think we can beat them 3-1 at the very least. But I'm gonna be watching the lineup. I really am with you on this, Eric. We need some new ideas, and that starts with the starting lineup, which, to be honest, they've been creative. The Seattle one was creative, did not work out so well for us, right? So I get it that you gotta be creative, but don't move on from what has won you games. So it's a fine balance here, but if it's the time to try, right, I think it's on this little spell against SKC and Houston. But look, I just want to thank everybody for being here. We do this for fun. We don't do this for anybody other than Eric and I. We're great friends. We're sitting there, section 128. Sometimes I go down. I ask questions. I think that's also great and fun. But ultimately, we're fans of this club, and we love to talk to you guys about what happens and our opinions, really, right? Some facts, but a lot of opinions. But want to thank you also, Eric, for being here. Subscribe, like, drop your thoughts in the comments here. That does help us if you are interested in our content. We have some shorts that we put on, like the video against Giroud. I'm going to have more of those to kind of just try to fix him, or at least show him what's wrong with him, so we can get more out of this iconic player. I'm very sad that he's not having a good career here. More than anything, you kind of want these guys to come to MLS and crush it, and they've been pathetic. But I have faith on this team. I think next show we're going to be talking about a win, Eric, and hopefully the next in 2 weeks we'll talk about another win against Houston and another that against San Diego. But thank you very much for being here, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.